3.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Idiomatic Top 3.
With Nicholas, I am the gaming correspondent for Idiomatic.
And I am Dimitri, editor-in-chief of Idiomatic and movie critic. Which puts me at a disadvantage because I'm not really much of a gamer. But anyway, we're going to talk about the most overrated games that from the 16-bit era and maybe 64-bit as well, you know.
Yeah.
But first, let's start with something I like to call show and tell. Let's recommend some Nintendo games.
All right. Well, I would recommend any game from the Super Smash Bros. Series. There's one for GameCube, one for Wii. There's, Super Smash Bros., Super Smash Bros. Melees, and Brawl as well. And any of those games, you just grab them, and it's basically Nintendo characters brawling and fighting with each other. And it's just a good, fun release of, anger. You just, smash stuff, and it's fun. You play as long as you want, and it's always a good release of energy, and I recommend it to anybody.
I agree, and there's just enough basic strategy that it's not just button mashing randomly and going, eh. Yeah. I mean, you can do that and get pretty far, actually, if you set the computer at easy or even medium. But there is actually a more in-depth gameplay possibility in there, which I like.
Yeah.
And most of all, I like the fact that it's super cute.
It is cute, yeah.
I find it's easier to get release out of that sort of violence, like let's beat the crap out of my friend's character or whatever, when they're super cute, because I don't even have to take it the least bit seriously, so I can just pound on the other guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much the complete opposite of Mortal Kombat, which is just, let's try and be, as gory and bloody as possible. No, this is just, little cartoon characters fighting each other. They don't feel pain. It's okay.
Mortal Kombat works for me because it's the other extreme, where it's like, it's gone so violent and silly that it's just funny.
Okay.
So I can play a thing and break my friend's arm, like, not his actual arm, but his character's arm, and just go like, I can do this. Now you get mashed by this machine in the background with the interactive backgrounds and whatnot. Whereas with Smash Brothers, it's sort of like, I just want to Pikachu the crap out of you right now is what I want to do.
That could sound dirty, but okay.
Especially when Mario gets the hit, he goes like, hoo, hoo, hoo. Anyway, great recommendation.
Yeah. What is yours?
My recommendation is actually a game with a character that is featured in Smash Brothers.
Okay.
I'm going to recommend Kirby's Epic Yarn for the Wii.
All right.
I'm totally hoping they do a sequel on the Wii U. It's Kirby. We all know Kirby. He's a big pink cloud that absorbs things by sucking them in.
Yeah.
And then gains their powers. And Epic Yarn sort of throws that all away and it turns him into a ball of yarn.
Okay.
Or rather, just that one thread.
A thread of yarn, circle around or something?
Yeah, circle. That looks like Kirby, essentially. And all the characters are thread, and he's moving across patterns and whatnot. And, he can pull on buttons to move the background and change the environment.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, and when he beats enemies, he's sort of like, he throws his own thread, and it attaches onto the threads of the enemy, and he pulls them out.
Wow.
It's really cute, and the thing is, the gameplay is really neat, because it's one of the few games that uses the Wii Remote in a way that isn't obtrusive. Like, a lot of times they want you to do the platform thing with the buttons as if it's a standard controller, and then once in a while, like, lift your controller in the air.
Yeah, to jump higher,
Yeah.
This is,
Which is, I find really annoying, because I tend to move my controller anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas this, what they do is that, once in a while, Kirby will gain a special ability that demands that you use your controller in a completely different way, which uses the Wii Remote. So it feels more like, varied gameplay rather than obtrusive gimmick into an established gameplay.
Gimmick is the right thing for certain games, yeah, because you're playing normally and all of a sudden, just once every 5 minutes, use the Wii Remote. And you're like, oh, really? And then go back to playing normally for 5 minutes. But yeah, what you're describing sounds a lot like, hey, change it once in a while and don't just use it for one thing and then move over. Just use it for a while in that way. That sounds good.
I guess it's a good time to get into our conversation proper.
What is your pick for overrated old school game?
Well, I'm going to start with Star Fox. That it was like the big 3D with the FX chip or whatever it was called, and you could see things in 3D. And that game it didn't look 3D. It was still 2D. I don't care what people say. It was just a bunch of polygons. You know, your ship was a polygon. You shot a bunch of polygons. The gameplay was just boring. Your ship was very not maneuverable. You didn't have any control. At one point, you were supposed to save your friends. You couldn't see what was happening on the screen. It really was a very bad game for me.
Yeah, no, that's a great pick. I couldn't have picked a better one myself. Probably one equal to it.
By which I mean that's my number 3 pick as well.
But the controls were absolute crap because the plane would never bloody do what you wanted to do. And that's largely to do with the graphics that were a little bit too slow. They kept skipping frames, so you didn't know what the hell was going on after. Like, if you were a moderately fast and reactive player, then it's like you couldn't follow the screen anymore because the screen can follow your controls.
That's true. I remember playing that, and you know, after a while, you pass the first level, and you're like, okay. Then the second level gets worse, and then you're in space, so there's even more stuff moving. You're like, okay, this is not going for me.
And it's like it amazes me that Pokemon got the controversy with the seizures when that game went by without a hitch with kids, because that thing, like, I'm not epileptic or anything, and like that thing drives me absolutely bananas. Which leads to your second pick, I guess.
All right. Mine is a little bit past the 16-bit era. Cataclysm.
Worlds of Warcraft Cataclysm, or as most people call it, WoW Cat.
Cata.
Cata?
Cata, because you know they couldn't call it cat. I don't know why. But
that would have been so much cooler. It's like WoW Cat.
I know, but you know, there's nothing cool about this expansion anyway. So.
Oh, well, do tell.
The premise is that this time there's a giant dragon called Deathwing that people might remember from Warcraft 2. Deathwing was in hiding, and he came out, and he's basically destroying the world. And that's where the Cataclysm comes from. However, when you look at the world, most of the trouble came from the war between Horde and Alliance. It did not come from the dragons. So, honestly, Cataclysm, yeah, it's a Cataclysm because now people are fighting between each other. You know, Horde versus Alliance, which is always the premise of the game. There's like the Horde, a bunch of races that are the Horde, a bunch of races that are Alliances, and they're separate and they're fighting.
So it's a metaphor for 9/11 then?
I guess. You have to explain that metaphor though, because I'm kind of slow.
The Deathwing Dragon takes down the two towers, and then suddenly you have two camps, the blue ones and the red ones. Let's just give them arbitrary colors there, and these all start fighting each other, and they sort of just let their own world collapse under its own weight.
Yeah, that's a very good metaphor, I guess. The original game, you went from level 1 to 60. The first expansion, from 60 to 70. The second one, from 70 to 80. And then...
I'm seeing a pattern.
Yeah. And then, somehow they decided, this is, they wanted to break the pattern, so they only did from 80 to 85. And they said, it'll take you about the same time to get from 80 to 85 it took you to get from 70 to 80. We're just going to make the levels longer. And that was total nonsense. It took me 2 days, and I was level 85.
How many hours?
Do I have to answer that? About 20.
10 hours a day, my God.
Yeah. Okay, those were, not very productive days at work. But still, I mean, I don't remember going from level 70 to 80 that fast. It took me a good solid week. But I did play a lot, and there was a lot more to experience. A lot more zones, a lot more, storylines. And in this one, it's just, hey, I'm level 85 already. This is lame. And then my character's not getting stronger. I'm just doing quests for the sake of questing. And my character's not getting anything from it. So it was really kind of a disappointment there.
All right, I'll go with my pick. Mortal Kombat. That game was super hugely successful. It was like, the alternative to Street Fighter 2. And this game is so lame. Like, first of all, the controls are absolute crap.
Yeah.
They react super slow, and the combinations are sort of completely counterintuitive. They're sort of like, all the controls are the opposite of Street Fighter 2 just because, You do a counterclockwise for a fireball. Well, it's a counter circle for Mortal Kombat. Ho.
I did not like the block. You have to press block to block, and I like pressing backwards, moving backwards and defending stuff. That was, normal to me. And, having to press a button for block, especially with this Super Nintendo remote that you had to press L and R on you. It's like that was just weird.
And the moves are limited. There were not a lot of moves in Mortal Kombat, the original.
I guess it's fair because every fighter has the same move, but it's also very boring.
Yeah, but then at that point, you might as well play that Street Brawl game that used to be on computers, like with the two guys that can only punch and go like stomach or face.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Actually, that game was more fun to me, but. But I think everybody loved the graphics. I think everybody loved the pretty graphics
and the blood. The blood was the big thing, which again, Nintendo's decision to release the game without the blood, you're missing half of the point of the game. At least Sega Genesis had the blood code. They didn't have the blood originally, but if you knew the secret code, you could play with blood.
They could have just had colored the blood kind of watercolored. It's it's sweat.
That's what Nintendo did, I think.
It is it?
Yes, it was sweat. The people getting punched and sweat was flying out. Getting punched is very, very,
Well, in fairness, they are all overdressed, the Mortal Kombat characters.
That's a good point. How Raiden's hat stays on his head like that is a mystery to me.
And the story was so dumb, too. Everybody was like, the story was so great. It's it's just a hodgepodge of really lame, misunderstood Asian mythos and mixed with fucking robots and cyborgs. It's just really silly stuff.
Yeah, well, it's a tournament. He has to win the tournament or else. And that's it.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is a fighting game. No fighting game story has ever been good, in fairness.
I'll find one. Yeah, you're right. I'm sure Marvel vs. Capcom has the storyline of the year, but I just don't know it.
Yeah, see, they still do it. Street Fighter franchise, Capcom does Marvel vs. Capcom. What do we have? Mortal Kombat versus the DC Universe. They're still doing it.
Yes, that's a good point. And that storyline does not make any sense.
Well, it's still... if you have Superman in a tournament, it's over. It's it's over.
Not if there's the Flash. You can
It reminds me of the Justice League fighting game that they had back in the 16-bit era. It's you could pick characters of the Justice League, but there were no bad guys. So it was Justice League members fighting one another for X, Y, Z reason.
Huh.
And I play that game with cheat codes all the time, just for the heck of it, where I play Superman, I put the cheat codes of invincibility, and then I beat the crap out of everyone. It was yep, that's how a Superman game ought to be played.
I guess so, yeah.
What is your number one pick for overrated old school game?
It was the game that started the downfall of a franchise, so I'm going to talk about it, and it's Final Fantasy VII. There's nothing special about this game except for the graphics. People claim, the storyline is so deep and, emotion. Okay, whenever your main character dies, that's why the storyline is so deep. That happens all the time in movies, the main character's girlfriend or whatever, she dies. Big deal. It's not so deep. I guess it was maybe the first time in a video game, a mainstream video game, that one of the characters you could play would die and you'd never get it again.
It's not true. The Final Fantasy Legends 3 did it before.
Okay, well then I'm wrong. But the storyline is not that great, and the graphics are not. They're still kind of cartoony, but you could see that Square was going in a different direction, and they're going to use better and better engines to make better graphics and kind of forget about the story. And I think that was really the beginning of the end for the Final Fantasy. Now the games are just all about graphics, and the storylines make no sense whatsoever.
It's the one with the gigantic sword and the girl with a white top with the gigantic boobs, right?
Yes. Yeah, the giganto sword. Also, beginning of the end, now you have ridiculous weapons. Like Final Fantasy X, the dodgeball is a weapon.
The dodgeball is a weapon?
It's a blitz ball, because it's blitzes it's a game. He throws a blitz ball as a weapon.
Feels very Tron-like to me, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's the best weapon in the game. People are hacking away at swords and stuff like that, but he's one of the best fighters, so he does the most damage with his ball. It's ridiculous.
I always laugh whenever gamers say that a video game has an amazing story, because what a load of crap. I have yet to see a single video game that has a great story. I think it has nice plot twist. I think Shadow of the Colossus, for example, has a nice final plot twist. That is still not a story. And I don't blame video games for that. I don't think story is that important for a video game. But every time a gamer says it has a great story, it goes like, how can you have a great story when, the player controls the main character instead of the storyteller? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you have to follow certain levels that get you through certain things. I don't know, have you played Knights of the Old Republic, for example?
Well, it's better than the prequels, but,
I don't know, I thought it was a good story for a video game.
But that's it, for a video game.
I guess, I would not compare it to Inception, for example.
This is what I want to see. I want to see Inception, the video game. That's what I want to see.
That game would be unfinishable. Like, what the hell is happening? Where do I have to go? What the...
And my favorite part about it is like the first 5 levels involves you meeting people and then having to scroll through like 16 pages of text as they explain the mechanics of the game.
Certain games are like that now.
That's true.
Yeah. So what is your overrated game?
Sonic the Hedgehog. Sega's answer to Super Mario, except it's fast and edgy.
Yes, it's fast. You just press forward and then the hedgehog just bounces around and level over.
Yeah, or level not over and you have no idea why. And the most frustrating thing about Sonic the Hedgehog is like the first levels are actually pretty cool. You go fast and then exactly, you press forward and then you get there, but it's kind of fun. Yeah. But then starting from zone 3 or 4, I don't remember, where it gets into Mechano world, like the technology world, where it's no longer linear and you sort of have to go back like towards the left instead of towards the right sometimes, or up and down. It's like, and it's a total maze. It's like, I never finish those levels because I never know where I'm supposed to go.
You can't figure out, maybe you missed the ledge, but how would you know you missed the ledge? Because you were running past it like 100 miles an hour. So, there was a ledge there you missed. Okay.
Yeah, they're unplayable. They're really boring. I do not like this game. I do not understand its appeal. And now that they've transferred to 3D, everybody goes, the 3D games don't capture the magic that the 2D ones had. And it's like, it didn't have magic back then. It's the problems with the 3D games are the same problems that were with the 2D games, but for some reason you forgave it. And I think it's because back then Genesis users were sort of like Mac users today. They were just so proud of not being with Nintendo that they were like, everything that's Genesis is awesome, even though you can't finish past half the game. It's like, but that's the point of the Genesis. Yes. I'm not having fun, but it's not Nintendo.
It has blast processing.
If the Genesis existed today, Justin Long would be telling you that he's cooler than you for having it.
Yeah.
Hey, it's the return of the Electric Boogaloo Factory, which we almost never do anymore because we always run out of time, but we're going to do it this time. For those of you who are new to it, and there's probably quite a few of you, the Electric Boogaloo Factory is when we take a franchise that doesn't deserve a sequel and try to make a sequel off of it. But since we're not talking about movies, we're just going to talk about making an adaptation of whatever we picked in our overrated picks.
Well, I chose Final Fantasy VII, and they already made a movie. Advent Children or something like that, so I'm done. And that movie was also horrible.
That is true.
But my other picks was Star Fox, and I guess we are in the age of computer graphics where you can make them pretty ridiculous enough that you could make some movie out of that. Just Star Fox blowing up a bunch of shit to save a princess would be pretty much my story.
Does he save a princess in the game?
I don't know. He saves Canaria or something like that.
I don't know, because it seems to me you're describing Wing Commander with furries.
Wing Commanders had furries.
Did it? Oh, that's right. They have the cat people thing.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. And you could take Muppet Show type, furries.
Yes.
And the costumes would still be better than Wing Commander. And Matthew Lillard has to play the frog. Like the annoying frog that you always have to save its ass.
Yes. Who could be Fox? Let's see.
I totally want Hayden Christensen for all the wrong reasons. Like, Star Fox, the command has betrayed us. We have to fight the bad guy or no. I will not betray the Republic.
So what about your overrated ones?
Alright, well, they already made 2 Mortal Kombat movies, so obviously I'm not going to go there. Although I will mention that if I had done a Mortal Kombat movie, I totally would have gone the Clue way of having different endings in different theaters where a different person wins the tournament.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. Because they did that for Clue the movie, where it was a different killer depending on which theater you went to.
Really? So you couldn't ruin it for other people? Or
Yeah.
you tried to ruin it, and you're like, no, that wasn't the killer. He was the killer.
Of course, they would make a sequel to that Mortal Kombat movie completely impossible to make. Speaking of Mortal Kombat, I have to. There's a short internet movie by a real filmmaker who did like what he would do with the Mortal Kombat franchise, and he sort of made a real world gritty. Like he tried to do Batman Begins from effing Mortal Kombat.
Oh, wow.
And it's like the Jax and the Sonya, they're like FBI officers. Baraka is a serial killer who mangled his own face. It's all really silly, all to try to make it grounded in reality. And I'm like, it's Mortal Kombat. It's like the game is so off reality they can't even spell combat right. Like, for heaven's sake. Anyway, but the other overrated movie that I picked was Sonic the Hedgehog, which, as I mentioned, is Genesis's answer to Mario. So, in keeping with that theme, I think we should make the movie called, just Sonic the Hedgehog in inexplicably metal font. And it will be about two ordinary guys, Sonic and Tails. They're just normal Joes who get sucked in to a world where man evolved from hedgehogs instead of, sapiens.
Yeah.
And there's this evolution ray that might turn them into goo, and they put on metallic boots that make them go really fast,
You can't have Dennis Hopper say the bomb, so that movie would blow.
That's you. Who would be Dr. Robotnik? I didn't think of that. I'm thinking Robert De Niro, personally.
I'm thinking Danny DeVito. He has
No.
the shape, so...
That is true. Danny DeVito it is. And, since hedgehogs are mostly from Eurasia and Africa, like that's where they come from, the Sonic should totally be played by an Australian actor.
Completely.
And that's my Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
I'd go and see that.
Yeah, well, you're not dragging me to it.
You're not going to go and see your own movie?
Nope. Well, that's it for us, I guess.
Yep.
Thank you for listening. If you, please share with us your overrated and underrated video games. We sure would appreciate it. And if you have any questions, comments,
You can write us at mail@idiomanic.com or post a comment right below the episode at idiomanic.com.
Yep. See you next week.